Hello everyone and welcome to Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal, Canada for this round of the 60 plus racing adventures. I am Connery Maddock. I'm joined by David Haynes for this evening's broadcast. We're in Canada, David. We're at what is for all intents and purposes a street circuit as well. Should play some host to some fantastic action with the bordering on 30 plus cars that we have in this field.
Yeah, thanks, Connery. A strong grid once again in 60 plus racing adventures. This is a circuit that's not particularly forgiving either, so they'll need to be careful across the two races we have ahead of us. Interesting weekend format, as it were, in 60 plus racing adventures. 2 races, but the points you take in the championship is your best result of the 2 races, and that championship has sort of already been sealed up by Stefan Rostjan, so no one can stop him in the championship, but someone could stop him in the races tonight.
Yep, so that is pretty much all sealed. You can see the point standings up on screen for you now. Stefan Rostjan just running away with things at the front of the field, but Bill Lawrence and Jean-Michel Noyon are tied on points for second place coming into this event. So that's definitely a battle that we will be keeping an eye on for the 2 races here today. John Morgan 4th place with Randy Shoemake in 5th place. But like you said, first place in the championship all sealed up. It's a battle for those final 2 podium spots now.
Yep, no doubt. And with a healthy grid and the fast speeds in that back straight, I think we're going to see a lot of passing into that final chicane. That'll probably be one of the hot spots to watch.
Exactly, and we've got qualifying times up on the left side of your screen now. Paul Stump currently leading the way. He is the only driver, in fact, in the 1 minute 33s at the moment. He holds a 0.8 of a second advantage over your championship winner of Stefan Rostjan. And we're riding on board with Donald Poole at the moment as he is heading his way down the back straight. Of course, though, this is his 3rd lap of this qualifying session, so unfortunately for him, this lap will not count. And well, there are very few cars out there that can actually get themselves a lap time in. I'm seeing Molesby head his way across the line, and well, he is not going to improve from 24th on the grid. Donald Poole across the line, we know he is not going to improve, so it looks like most of qualifying is already done here, David. We've pretty much got your grid set for race number 1.
Yeah, indeed. A 10-minute qualifying session where the drivers have 2 timed laps around a lap like this. Certainly, almost everyone has used their lap allocation, but staying out on track is Donald Poole to just continue to be more acquainted with the conditions, with the car, with the track.
Yeah, just getting that those last couple of bits of practice in, but here is your starting grid for race 1 of Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Here we got Paul Stump in pole position with Stefan Rostjan on that front row as well. John Morgan and Donald Poole will consist of row number 2. And then you look back, you've got in P5 John Unsby. You have Leroy Coppage as well in P6. Randy Shoemake starts in 7th place with Greg Garrett in P number 8. Bruce Granheim in 9th place with Bruce Poole in P10. Russ Addy starts in P11 with Kenneth Drummer in P12. Urs Müller in P13 with Bob Kern. 14th place is where he's going to start today with David Riley in P15. Jack Turner starts 16th place with Joel Martin in 17th. Louis Cannell in P number 18. Ronald McManus in P number 19. And then in 20th place on the starting grid, it's Bonacera. And then quickly going through another couple of the runners, you see Gilly, you see Dombrowski bringing things down to P22. Clarissa in P23. Molesby starts P24. Moore in P25, 26th to Barson, 27th to Gello, and now we see P number 28 go to Mark Robertson, as the rest of the field are Greg Gilman, Douglas Beasley, Richard Valley, Mark Leeson, and Larry Thomas, rounding out your 32 car grid here today. And you can just see all those cars stacking up behind the safety car for double file rolling start here. So we just get a couple of moments just to talk about our expectations, especially over those first couple of laps, as this first sector can get quite hectic because you have to slam on the anchor straight away and go through a couple of slow speed corners.
Yeah, the first couple of corners is always very, very interesting. You sometimes feel like you want to overtake to the left-hand side of the circuit. Then it leads into the sort of hairpin right. So I think if you're confident in the car, if you've got speed, you can probably overtake either side in the first sector. And then, of course, the slipstreaming is very, very powerful in these cars. A lot of wings on them, but they are still only 250-ish horsepower race cars. You follow in the wheel tracks of another car and you can pick up a lot of speed, and maybe you'll see some overtaking into this right here, the final chicane. Be careful of that wall of champions.
Safety car on pit lane, field under the control of Paul Stump. He will bring the 60-plus racing adventures to the green flag here in race 1 at Montreal. He'll lead coming down into the first turn, and Roastgen just has to file back into P2. Battle for P3 though between Donald Poole and John Morgan. As Morgan's able to get the traction off the corner, he solidifies himself in P number 3 at the moment. I'm not spotting any dramas a little bit further back, as these guys are already single file coming through the end of that first sector and into the second sector. But a good start from Paul Stump. He's able to comfortably lead this one inside the first half the lap here. Everyone else just taking their time behind as well. So it's all clean, it's all fair at the start.
Yep, sensible stuff for the start of this 18-lap race. Room given, and we'll see what happens a bit deeper in this race. But certainly, I think there's not as much drafting, as much slipstreaming in these first two sectors. A lot of it happens in that final sector of the lap. So you just got to make sure you get to that hairpin and you get a very, very smooth exit out of there.
Yeah, it's one of the most important traction zones, if not the most important traction zone at this track. And if you have a little bit of a slide out of here, then that can compromise your speed all the way down the very long back straight. And you can just see the slipstreams now in full effect. You see the challenge for the race lead then. That's Roastgen down the inside of Stump, and Stump's not going to fight this one here early on, just allowing that slipstream pass to happen. Roastgen will come across the line to log a lead lap here, but I get the feeling that these guys will be trading positions all day long.
Yeah, top 3 looking very, very strong. John Morgan right in position as well there. He was right up behind Paul Stump after Stump rolled out of the throttle and let Roastgen through into the lead. So it doesn't look like Roastgen's bolting away in the lead. It definitely looks like John Morgan has the pace for Paul Stump there as well. 4th place, Donald Poole, also in this pack for the top 4.
Yeah, so while those drivers trying to keep things tight as far as contenders for the podium positions are concerned early on in this race. We have a look further back, just on the edge of the top 10. We see Addy here trying to battle with Granheim. Granheim took a little bit of a compromised line. Excuse me, that's Bruce Poole. That's having a couple of problems there through that particular sector. These guys will bring it side by side into the next chicane, and Addy sends it down the inside and gets that pass comfortably done over the driver of the number 57. And that might not be the end in terms of Bruce Poole's battles here, because now he has Kenneth Drummer looking all over the back of him. Drummer down the inside at the hairpin, can't quite get anything done through there. There's a big concertina effect behind as all these drivers stack up together. But it looks like Poole will just try and cut his losses there, just take that one position lost, but it could so easily been 2.
Yep, certainly a good exit out of the hairpin for him down the straight here. Bit of 2 wide action in front of Joel Martin. So that would be David Riley and Bob Kern potentially. That all sorts itself out before this final chicane. And Joel Martin gets too much of the curb and he's in the wall.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Into the wall of champions. Hopefully it's a good omen for him, but certainly not as far as race number 1 goes, as we'll see what happens in through the final chicane. A bit too heavy over that first curve, just sends it into the corner of the barrier there. No one else collected in that one though, so it's good to see just the single car instant there, but he'll be cycled all the way to the back and has to take that tow back to pit lane. There are 2 fast repairs available in this series, so you can get that all fixed up and get back out there and try and salvage a couple of points together.
Yeah, certainly hope we do see him out there. And the point to make there is there's quite a few curves around here that are quite tall, quite violent, and in a small open wheel car like this, it does not hop those curves anything near as smoothly as a GT car might. You can see them in the sector of the track as well. So in a car like this, you want to get close to them, but boy, you don't really want to hit them.
Yeah, you really don't. And we're on board with Bruce Poole, Canadian, so home track for all intents and purposes. Although I know Canada is a very, very big country. He could be living on the opposite side of it for all I know, but I'm just going to take that Canadian nationality and just slap a point onto him with this being a...
He is right in that slipstream, and you see he's not quite hitting the rev limiter in 6th gear as they approach the final chicane here, so he's definitely got the ratios to be able to pick up a bit of speed aerodynamically.
Yeah, here we go. Will he have a bit of an attempt over Addy into turn 1? Not going to be so this time around. We're still early on in the race, so there's not really all that much point of going for hopeful dive bombs down the inside. That will be the case maybe in the last couple of laps of this race, if we get to see it at all. But for now, everyone just in race conservation mode at the moment, unless they go back qualifying, in which case they'll want to be moving forward here early on. But I'm not seeing anyone massively out of position just yet. I'm just seeing, at least in terms of positions gained, we see Mark Robertson P21 at the moment. He's gained 7 since the race starts, and Douglas Beasley P24, he's gained 6 since the race starts. So a couple of those drivers that did start at the back are now starting to work their way through. But as far as this top 15 goes, it doesn't look like anyone's lost massively or gained massively.
Yeah, I mean, within the top 10, it's all been very, very sensible.
Crashing to happen.
Stuff there, but I say that it looks like
number 3. Yeah, Randy Shoemaker involved in this one. That's a big stack up inside the hairpin, and we'll get to see exactly what happens. Shoemaker down the inside of Unsby into the hairpin, just tagged Unsby around right in the middle of the circuit. Everyone having to slow up, and that's not the best rejoin there for Unsby. Straight back into the racing line, collecting a car there. That was Addy trying to work his way through. So a couple of drivers involved in that one, but good job from the rest of them to get those cars slowed down so much. Yes, you're heavy on the brakes coming into there anyway, but you'd rather stop for an instant than be involved in it.
Yes, there's a couple of cars out there carrying a bit of damage, unfortunately. We saw Randy Shoemaker had some of it, but top 4, it all happened behind them. John Morgan runs a bit deep into this chicane, so Donald Poole has a run back at it.
Yeah, Donald Poole, driver's right-hand side of John Morgan, and Poole, he'll be able to haul himself up into that final podium position. Easily done over John Morgan, but like I said, some of these draft passes are making it seem deceptively easy as far as things go here. Still, these top 4 cars at the moment, still all within sight of each other. We see a car that's gone around in the back. That's Greg Garris that has had a problem. That actually wasn't the car in the back. That was a car that was running P number 5 that's had a problem there. Just a single car spin off of the second chicane and just noses it into the Armco barrier. I don't think there's too much damage on that Pro Mazda though, so he's able to get it spun back around and is able to take a side-by-side fight with Douglas Beasley, but Beasley's going to win out in that one.
Yeah, Kenneth Dummer also going for a little bit of a spin on the grass as well there, so there's been a problem for him. You saw there's a great battle happening in front of him, and he's been a little bit too exuberant with the right pedal.
Yeah, as you see, Dummer getting that car spun back around, back onto the circuit he goes. So a couple of drivers having a few issues here, and that is kind of understandable. It is a pretty tricky circuit to negotiate, and step a foot out of line, just get a bit of a slide, and there's not much room for error. There are not many runoffs, and the runoffs that there are, they're usually grass covered, so that's not great. So it is a track that really, really does punish those sorts of errors.
Yeah, indeed. A couple more of the walking wounded cars here, but Bruce Poole and Ross Addy behind him. Neither of them got the factory specification on the front wing. It doesn't seem to be hurting them too much, though. They're still driving around inside the top 10. little group here being led by Bruce Poole with Russ Addy, Randy Shoemake behind.
Yeah, that's the sort of closest battle inside this group right now. Just 0.6 of a second between those two at the moment. And you see Donald Poole and Bruce Granheim there for the battle for P5 and 6 at the moment as well. So everyone just keeping themselves close in their packs at the moment. We have a decent separation between the packs, but as far as trains of cars go, there's certainly no shortage of them.
Nah, great little 3-car battle here, and Leroy Coppage up the front of it was trying to break the draft just a little bit. He's kind of doing it again, but I'm not sure it's fully effective.
Yeah, you know, this is just you do everything that you can to try and break the draft here. The situation with the weaving down the straights, and we'll just have to see if that causes some drivers a couple of issues, because sometimes you can overdo it and then get yourself into a little bit of a sketchy situation. But as far as I know, these cars don't have the tendency to break loose in a like that. But still, Donald Poole trying to hold on to the top 5 position at the moment. Has this decent buffer over Granheim, but Granheim's slowly but steadily trying to work his way in. He's basically getting a slight bit of double slipstream from the 2 cars ahead, which will pull him back into things. But right now, we're coming up to, well, a couple of laps until we get to the halfway point in the race. He's still in a decent position, decent points from finishing here, so there's no reason why he can't maintain this until the checkered flag as well.
Yeah, a couple of big winners here. So Coppage up 2 positions from where he qualified in 6th to be running 4th now. And Granheim qualified 9th, now running 6th. And he's on the tail of this train where he could gain a couple more positions. So this could be a good race for Granheim.
This could be. We see a battle for the race lead, just getting themselves swapped around as well. So that's Rostian back through into the race leads, and well, rather holding the race lead there over Paul Stump. So what I said about these guys, you know, just swapping positions here and there for the majority of this race, it seems like that is true. Meanwhile, a little bit further back, that's P number 9 and 10 heading their way down in towards turn number 1, and Ali did have a slight look, a bit of a show of the nose over David Riley, but not going to be able to do anything that time. But it's a bit of a sketchy exit of the corner there from Riley that might have just netted Addy an opportunity, but not enough of one to justify going too wide into that chicane. So he'll just have to bide his time, sit behind for now. And Addy's piling a lot of pressure onto Riley here, and you can just see that exemplified with Riley just outbraking himself a little bit into the braking zone, and now he loses 1 position, and now he loses 2 positions as Bob Kern will also pick up the pieces in that one.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of cars do that. It must be a very, very difficult braking zone into what I think is turn 5 there. Of course, a chicane like that, you go in too deep for the first part, compromises your exit out of the second part. So a great job right there, Russ Addy picking the correct line to go ahead and make up a position. Seems like you come through the fast sweeping corner into a difficult braking zone there. A couple of guys are struggling with it.
It does seem to be the case, but the slipstream, the great equalizer here, as Kern goes to the inside over Addy. Addy, he's just going to lift out a tad, but Riley down the inside of 2 cars in the final chicane. He's able to get 1 pass done, but the other goes begging. He's a bit slow going off the chicane as well here, so Addy might just be able to gain this position back into turn 1. Certainly showing the nose. Does he commit? That's going to be a flat out no, as Riley, what an aggressive move there into one of the most dangerous portions of this racetrack.
Yeah, difficult to go too wide through there, not fast to go too wide through there. We've already seen that those curbs are very, very tall, dangerous to a little car like this. So I'm glad that they safely negotiated. I think it did cost them a little bit of time.
Yeah, just a bit as I'm looking at the gap between this pack and the pack ahead of them. That stands at about 3.4 seconds. So that's the gap between P8, P9 at the moment. So it's decent yet to try and make up. Not impossible over the 9.5 laps that we have remaining, but it's going to require a bit of work. Meanwhile, P8, P9, Randy Shoemake and Bob Kern, those guys trying to resolve their particular squabble. They're currently a couple of seconds off the other cars ahead of them as well. So is there a certain element here of maybe if these guys are a little bit closer that they'll be able to work together to try and catch those cars ahead, or are these guys just going to battle it out amongst themselves?
I mean, that's a solid question, and I'm sure it varies driver to driver here, really. There'd be some would be thinking about it, and these guys are all racing with each other every week, and they'd be familiar with each other and their driving style and who isn't good to work together. So I'm not sure, but there's obviously some friendly competition in this series, so anything's possible.
We'll just, it's the age-old statement of we'll just have to wait and see. But I am seeing a bit of front-end damage there to Riley's car. The front wing of that Pro Mazda, you can see on our left-hand side, as we look at the head-on shot, that front wing is torn up a little bit, but still good enough to hold inside of a top 10 position at the moment. So it shouldn't be affecting him that much, but you can see even from above as well. The head-on shot will also reveal it. Our left-hand side, that front wing, not as it left the factory.
No, and there's obviously a couple of cars that had a little bit of contact between each other in the hairpin. We saw that one, and then there's also the possibility that some of these cars might have damaged the front wing across some of the curbs. Not sure. A little bit of a lock-up there from Russ Addy. Is this Jack Turner's opportunity? Didn't quite get the exit he might have needed.
Yeah, didn't quite get it. And, well, you can see how that's going to affect him coming down the back straight. Yes, it's going to be recovered a little bit thanks to the slipstream. You can see Turner starting to close in onto Addy ahead now, but again, not going to be in the position to be able to do anything into the final chicane, but a good exit out of the final chicane for Turner might just open up the possibility of heading down the inside at turn 1, and he does so. Not fought all that hard though by Addy, and actually Addy does have a bit of a half spin in the background there, and that's a bit unfortunate. He doesn't lose any more positions, but does allow Robertson now to lock onto the back bin. We'll get another look at exactly what happened, and there was no contact between those cars. In fact, there's a country mile between them. It's just a slight lockup on that inside front from Addy that then just looped the car around it.
Yeah, it happens sometimes. You just got the car in front of you, blocking your vision of some of your regular reference points, and so maybe he's turned the wheel too aggressively or more aggressively than he otherwise might have in the same situation. The car's gone for a little spin, but now he is continuing to be under a bit of pressure.
Yeah, like I said, Robertson, as a result of Addy's spin, is now able to gain the opportunity, and Addy just lets him go, just deciding, nope, I don't want to fight you. I know how fast you are, and as is the case for Addy, he does have quite a bit of front wing damage on the driver's left-hand side, so not feeling that he can even fight these battles when they arise, and decides to not lose the time and just let the car through.
Yeah, up front, the last couple of laps have been tough for Paul Stump. He was keeping the same pace as Stefan Rostjen. He's now dropped back 4 seconds. So Rostjen in the second half of the race has managed to start building out a lead.
Yeah, and the important point is here, Rostjen set the fastest lap of the race on that last lap, so without any draft as well. So that is absolutely incredible from your championship winner at the moment, and looking to finish off this season with a bit of a final flourish here, as he is trouncing the rest of the field. Although just as I was looking at him on my view, he had a bit of a slide coming out the hairpin, so maybe he's feeling the curse of the commentator at the moment, and we should look away from him as soon as possible and instead look at how Mark Robertson's doing as he tries to pull away.
Yeah, a couple of places to look, always some great battles. Plenty of cars around the track, and that is starting to give just a little bit of traffic for our leaders, so they've got to be careful with that final 6 or so laps. This here is back straight. A bit of 6th gear of 6 gears on the sequential gearbox for Bruce Granheim. Tries to close in on Coppedge. He's got Donald Poole in front of him. The still 3-car battle is one of the best we've got going on, and it's for a couple spots in the top 5. But Granheim the only one without a seat in the top 5 right now.
Yeah, and well, he's looking to try and change that within the last couple of laps that we have of this race. Looking at 6 to go at the moment, and Granheim, you know, we've seen him be, well, trying to work out this gap for a while, and unsure of his current progress, as he set a 134.889 the last time around. As far as Coppedge is concerned, it's a 134.734, and that was his fastest lap of the race as well. So Granheim, try as he might right now, that gap doesn't seem to be getting any smaller.
Yeah, but he's just hanging with the guys at the moment, so it's not doom and gloom for him right here. Plenty of laps to go still, and he's in one of the better battles that he was out on track as well. So he's got a good view, and he's heading for a good result.
There we go. Into the hairpin they go, just race bubbling along pretty nicely at the moment. Donald Poole, Leroy Coppedge, around about half, well, if not over half a second between those guys at the moment. It just dips under as the slipstream comes into full effect, coming down the back straight. We have a problem, though, that was actually right in front of your race leader. That was Larry Thomas. He has gone for a bit of a spin, so the 818 car has had a problem coming through the first sector, and luckily it was all on his own, but Roastin was literally right behind this one and could just see him have his bit of a problem. Lucky he spins towards the outside of the circuit instead of spinning back into the racing line, but that's not really what you want to see when you're the race leader and you have a comfortable lead of about 3.5 seconds.
Yeah, sort of flagged that, you know, a little bit of traffic means that Roastin's not home and away and clear. He's still got a
Yep, still got to drive carefully and just keep on going. As Roastin, he hasn't actually lost a lot of time as a result of that incident happening in front of him, so it'll take that one as a positive. On that last lap, though, Paul Stump did gain about 8/10 of a second, but of course that wasn't. But that incident happened at the start of this lap, so we won't see the effects of that coming until the end of this one. Coming up to 4 laps to go here for Roastin at the moment, and he'll head his way across the start-finish line to get just that little bit further towards the end of the season here, and looking pretty comfortable at the moment, I have to say. It hasn't really much gone wrong for the driver number 23 at the moment.
And you could kind of extend that to all season for a man who's sealed up the championship before the final 2 races. So yeah, not going to curse him yet, but he's clearly had a couple good races in this season, some of which we broadcast here on RaceSpot. We did the first round, and we picked up one of the rounds in the middle of the championship. I think that was the one at Sebring a couple of weeks ago, right on board with second place man, Paul Stump, and there's only a couple of places we can actually look up the road and see Stefan Roastin on the major straights.
Yeah, so despite that good last lap from Paul Stump, it was answered right back by Roastin as he's able to pull out the gap once again. You can just see 3.8 seconds, bordering on 3.9 at the moment. So Roastin doing exactly in this race as he has done in the entire championship, just run away with things at the front of the field. Although we do have battles that potentially may spark towards the latter portion of this race. Just further back, though, we've got Donald Poole, Coppedge, and Granheim. That battle that we have been sort of passively observing for now is actually starting to tighten up a bit between this group of cars. You can also really technically count John Morgan in this battle as well, so it could end up being a battle for the podium given the right set of circumstances. So if you're John Morgan in this situation and seeing those cars behind now start to catch you, and you lost a lot of time on that last lap, he did a 1:39.3, so it must have had some sort of problem, some sort of spin that now has put Donald Poole into this position where he can gain the traction off of the final chicane, and he can bring it side by side for P3 into turn 1, and that's going to be John Morgan not fighting it, and Coppedge actually narrowly avoids contact, as actually that was Gene Moore getting out of the way, so excuse me, as John Morgan's a little bit too far ahead of these guys. That was my bad, but still it's a battle for P number 4 between Poole, Coppedge and Granheim that almost got disrupted by a bit of lap traffic.
Yeah, and Coppedge had definitely gotten quite close to Donald Poole in this little battle, and then lost out a little bit there. He didn't really get the line he wanted through turns 1 and 2, I don't think. So now he's now come under a bit more pressure from Granheim than he was putting on Donald Poole. So this might be an opportunity for the grey car.
Might just be. He's in the best position to pull off a pass of this entire group right now, because Poole has now started to pull away right at the front. So he looks to try and finish off this race with a great last couple of laps. He's going to get stuck behind yet more lap traffic, though, coming through the hairpin. Although that traffic, you know, while it hurts him through the hairpin, it can benefit him coming down the back straight, that's for sure, with a little bit of slipstream. Granheim, we're riding on board with him at the moment. Next time these guys come across the line, that will be 2 laps to go. And I'm actually seeing the number 16 of Coppedge a bit tentative in towards the final chicane, but Granheim not gaining all that much time. They deal with that red car, which is a little bit of lap traffic. That's Strombrowski just being a bit of an obstacle to them at the moment, but with 2 laps to go, Granheim down the inside, and he's able to pick that one up over the lap traffic, but I think he may have just lost a little bit too much time inside that entire sequence to be able to make this happen before the end of the race.
Yeah, none of these guys pushing too hard, lapping traffic, so they carry on with a clean car in this circumstance, but has spread these guys out just a little bit, cost maybe an opportunity to attack on that lap, but it's never over until it's over. And of course the best overtaking opportunity is into the last corner on the lap, so positions could very, very much still change on the way to the line on the final lap.
Yeah, we've seen mad finishes before here on RaceSpotTV. We've had a recent one, or at least a semi-recent one, in the ACI Esports series, where we saw 3 wide for the race lead coming across the line. I remember basically 6 or 7 months back where we had the driver reverse across the line to come to the finish. So, you know, crazy finishes aren't that uncommon here at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. But with that, Grosjean has taken the white flag here. It's going to be the final lap for the leader, and so the final lap for this battle for P4, 5, and 6 in just a couple of moments' time as well. So just having a little bit further back to see if there's anyone close that might have a last lap duel here. Maybe
I'm
P16,
loving
17.
Greg versus Greg for 17th and 18th.
Yeah, actually Beasley down the inside of McManus, and that is a bit of contact inside the hairpin. McManus trying to get that car back onto the grey stuff, but it looks like he's got a bit of rear suspension damage, so he's going to send it in towards the Armco barrier, and unfortunately he will not be finishing this race. So the battle that we were looking to talk about, unfortunately, hasn't happened there, but what a confident drive, what a comfortable drive right at the front of the field for Grosjean. He was challenged early on. Paul Stump able to keep tabs on him inside the slipstream, but despite not starting pole position, Grosjean, he is able to come away with the race win. Just one more chicane to go, and he will be the winner of race 1 at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve for basically the final event of the season here in the 60+ races, racing adventures. Grosjean across the line. He takes the first win of this evening. Paul Stump, 5 seconds behind, will be able to come across the line and take P number 2. But a comfortable race for those guys at the front. We saw a couple of issues, a couple of problems for mid-pack drivers, but overall, a pretty comfortable race from most people involved.
Yeah, a couple more battles out there coming to the checkered flag. This is one of the ones we were watching. Coppage still going to hold off from Granheim. Then behind them, Bruce Poole and Bob Kern. Bob Kern's going to try and challenge to the line here.
Yeah, I'm actually seeing Riley and Addy as well for, well, cars number 14 and the 111. They were close coming into the final chicane, but you can see them at the back of the picture, and it will be David Riley that wins out in that particular battle. So he comes away with P12 after starting P15. A good gain of a couple of positions for the driver of the number 14, and waiting for the last couple of runners to head their way across the line at the moment. It doesn't look like things are going to change for drivers towards the back of the field. So with that all done and dusted, and the final couple of cars coming across the line now, we can soon head our way to the official race results. Here in the first race of the evening, we see Stephen Rosechen extending his advantage in the championship that he has already won. We also see Paul Stump in P number 2, John Morgan P3 with Donald Poole in P4, Leroy Coppage in P5 with Bruce Granheim P6, Bruce Poole in P7, Bob Kern, Randy Shoemake, and Jack Turner will round out your top 10 in race number 1. Mark Robertson with a fantastic drive from near enough the back of the field. He gained 17 spots up into P11. David Riley finishes in P12. Russ Addy in P13, and Kenneth Dummer, will finish in P14. We see Charles Gilly in P15. Greg Garris, not the most ideal races. He drops from P8 into P16. Greg Gilman from P29 into P17. Douglas Beasley, a good gain for him as well, up into P18. We see David Valley and Urs Muller rounding out the top 20 and rounding out the cars that finished on the leading lap. For those that didn't, though, here are the names. Paolo Boncera, we have Rudolf Dombrowski, Joel Martin, Scotty Gello, and Louis Cannell, bringing things down to P25. And those 2 laps down or more, we see Ronald McManus, who had those problems later on in the race, Gene Moore. We also see Larry Thomas, John Van Barsen, Jared Florison, John Unsby, Wally Millsby, and the driver of Mark Leeson didn't take the start. So with that, race 1 is completely done and dusted, and soon we'll be looking to race 2. But before we get there, David, just summarize what we've just seen and maybe some expectations for the next round as well.
Well, I think we often see this, when you've got, for example, 2 qualifying laps, you do a, banker lap and then a, all-in lap. You want to make sure you bank a reasonable result in the first of the 2 races, and then you can improve in the second race. You've learnt more about the track, more about how to battle, especially with the slipstream down the long back straight here. So often we might see the drivers take it a little easier in the first race. If they get a good result, they can go all out in the second race. If they don't, well, they've still got this second race to try and improve their result.
They do, and that's one of the unique things about this series. If race 1 didn't go your way, then you still have that chance in race 2 to post a couple more points on the board. But we'll take a short commercial break here on RaceSpotTV. But next time we see you, it will be race number 2 of the evening. We'll see you in a couple of minutes.
Dirt track racing, I don't get to do it as much as I'd like, and with the Chili Bowl being a unique event, it only happens one time a year. So iRacing is a fantastic tool to be able to go on there, get laps, and prepare for this year's event. And we just saw it earlier in the week where iRacing was actually used to help make the racetrack or fix the racetrack, because the scans are true. They're, you know, whenever they scan the racetrack, it is what it actually is, and they use the iRacing scans to fix the real racetrack. So everything right there is exactly what it is in real life, and it's so much fun to drive. So for me to tell all the iRacers out there is, keep it up. I mean, it's as real as it gets. Whenever you get on there and you compete with guys like myself or Kyle Larson or any of the real racers, it's pretty heads up. So if you have talent and you're able to succeed on iRacing, it's definitely real talent. And obviously it's tough to get that opportunity in real life, but iRacing is a great tool for us, and we use it as simulation because it is a simulation.
Really neat to see how quickly that esports league has grown. Being able to watch the championship race last year on TV was really exciting. So, you know, it made me want to get into that ownership side of it. So we have Steven Sheehan and Bob Bryant driving for Kyle Larson Racing on iRacing. So it'd be fun to tune into that and have some fun cheering them on, and hoping they do good too. So, you know, Hamlin and I have we're pretty competitive off the track. So, you know, now that's both in the ownership side of the iRacing thing, it'd be fun to have a little competition, a little rivalry maybe. I ran for a little while just to get some laps and get familiar with the visuals of the berm and all that, the infield berm, because it's tricky. So if you can kind of get yourself into a rhythm on the game, it helps when you get here. So it's definitely a great tool that I love using when I get ready to go to any track. It definitely helps, and I think that's why you see guys like Christopher, myself, who use the program pretty frequently, run really well here. Learn as much as you can, you know, with racing on iRacing. You know, for when you do get that opportunity in real life cars, it's going to make your transition really quick. So, you know, I was young before I had children. I spent a lot of time, you know, racing online, and I think, you know, that really benefited me for when I got to race on the weekends. You know, we get 5 laps of practice at the track, so when you can spend hours of practicing during the week on the computer, it definitely gives you an advantage when you get to the racetrack. So I'd say try and get permission from your wives and girlfriends and parents to spend a lot of time on there to get better.
I started racing at the age of 9. My dad took me to my first go-kart race, and I saw that there was a pink car actually was what got me interested, and then I found out that it was a girl driving it, and so I was like, okay, yeah, I can do this too. And so by the next week I had my own cart, and the rest is history.
Ladies and gentlemen, and the Team Red Lake car locked to opposite lock. We've got to remember, these cars are cold, we've got to spin. That's the NX Racing team car. That's the spin, and turn 2 is one of these points where it can happen, and how no one has hit him. I am absolutely staggered, David. Yeah, I mean, that was good heads up, realizing we had a little bit of an Austin Powers moment there as we saw him trying to get that car turned around. These GT free.
No. Dude.
There's an incident here. Right tailboat.
Just toe, dude!
On the left.
Nice thing about the two times.
Hold up.
Check. Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! You need to
tried.
Tengo limitado a 25 coches en pista, que solo vemos.
Ojo, es por la izquierda.
No, tío. ¿Alguien le va?
It's crashed! Mike's crashed! The car's damaged!
Holy! We have some issues. I've just been asked to focus on a driver who's not in a race. So what we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen, is, if you bear with me 1 second, because I need to actually make this gag work properly, we're going to go and focus on Nicky Theme. Oh yeah, we can't. He's not in this race. So, there we are. Let's go back to the actual race, shall we? We do like, by the way, you keeping in touch with us on social media.
Whoa, what's happening? What is he doing? What? Better not be doing this on purpose. What is it? Come on, it's cheap if he does it on purpose.
Watch your right side. Clear on the right.
Oh, come on.
Well done, Matt. Great drive. That's a podium.
I'm taking the win at Bathurst. I don't care. It's going on the business card as a win, baby. What's wrong with Marvin? What, Marvin? All right, Marvin, I see what happened here. Let me force the bets quick. Oh, my God. Send it, baby.
That's a win. Great job.
Oh, yeah. Classic Malone. Hey, thanks, Nim. What has he got, a big lever? Or is it a clunk? You're done, Malone. Clunk.
Made it. Nailed it.
Hey, cheers, man. How you doing, bud?
Hey, good, mate, good. I've got the last 55 minutes of you.
That was a solid jump.
Jason Hamilton. I'm Director of Racing Operations and Event Management for NASCAR. I'm also the series director for the eNASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series on iRacing and the eNASCAR Ignite Series on iRacing. We're here at Myrtle Beach Speedway for a test session for Zach and Max, the two champions from the eNASCAR Peak Series and the eNASCAR Ignite Series. They're testing late models in partnership with Rev Racing. Opportunity for them to come out and showcase the skills that they built on iRacing in a full-size stock car for the first time.
Got in the car, got the wheel adjusted. Zach's in the car now. Get that set up for him, and be ready to roll here in a little bit.
The tips we got were basically just to try and keep it on the bottom as best as possible, and that's going to be the easiest way to keep the car in one piece and just not make any mistakes.
You're off the throttle for a long time. You're off the throttle longer than you actually think you need to be, but the corners are so long. If you try to pick the throttle up too fast, it's just going to either jerk the car loose or make it tight and then jerk loose. Any other questions? Nope. We'll try it, and if you have any trouble, need to talk about something, it's fine to stop. Always come off the racetrack like we did, a while ago.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, that was crazy. I wanted to open it up a little bit more, but it was all about just keeping the car in one piece, being safe.
I have no complaints on that. So just now that you're out, you can relax and think about what you did, and then we'll apply to the next round. Okay. Yeah, you did very well. Yeah.
Thank you.
You make me nervous, but you didn't. You didn't make me nervous this time. Yeah. So that was good.
You good with the height now? Yeah. All right, that's good.
What about your gears? You know where they're at? First, second, third, fourth? Okay.
What we're telling you now is what we told him all along.
And you're doing fine.
Yeah.
You're doing perfect. We're just trying to help those little places to gain more. My name is Mark Green. I work for Rev Racing. I am the driver development coach for the team. They both got up to speed fairly good. The biggest thing, especially here at Myrtle Beach Speedway, it's the line that you run. This place it's old pavement, it's wore out, it doesn't have a lot of grip. So there's a different way of racing this racetrack line-wise and driving-wise. So we had to work on those aspects of it with them. But they took to it very well, and they learned most of it. They still don't have it obviously down pat. After 6 hours, nobody would. Both young men did very, very well. We were very happy with our test today. No mishaps, and I think everybody had fun, and we had a good day.
So both Max and Zach did a great job. It was very impressive to see how quickly they got up to speed today. They took the coaching very well. We implemented a similar format to what we do with the Driver Diversity Combine, where we bring a large group of drivers in and evaluate them. We gave them a couple sessions in the morning to get up to speed. Both of them took those sessions, learned from the coaching that we had today with Rev Racing's Mark Green, and both of them built. And as we went on throughout the day, every time they went out, they got faster and faster, and we're actually turning some pretty competitive laps by the end of the day. I think it just reaffirms our belief that iRacing in the future can continue to be a grassroots form of racing where we're reaching a new audience, reaching a broader audience of talented drivers that may not have access to a traditional racetrack to begin their racing careers, but they can start them on iRacing and then from there propel themselves to the next levels and higher levels of racing. And just like drivers similar to William Byron, we'll continue to see drivers like that get their start on iRacing, make their way up the NASCAR ranks, and hopefully one day be racing in the Cup Series.
Hello everyone and welcome to race 2 of the evening at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Here in the 60 plus racing adventures, I am Connery Medic. I'm joined as ever by Mr. David Haynes, Hugo Luis behind the scenes, pushing all those buttons, make those cameras and graphics happen. A pretty comfortable race 1 that we just had, especially for your eventual race winner of Roostgen, as he extends his advantage and extends his already dominant lead in the championship that he has already taken in these set of circumstances. And now practice is underway for race number 2 of the evening. We see Grinheim currently setting the fastest time here in practice, but the session has only just got up, so we'll have to see if he's able to hold on to that top spot for now. But race 2 looking to perhaps be a little bit more enthralling, at least with the side-by-side battles, than race number 1, but that is entirely dependent on how the actual qualifying session here for race 2 turns out.
Yeah, and of course the way the points system is in this championship is very, very unique to almost every other series that has, you know, more than one race to a round, in that it's your best result of the 2 that counts. So if you won race 1, you can't park it, because you got to go out there and defend that race win. Otherwise, someone else will pick up equal race winning points to you from the end of the round. So we've got a lot of drivers with more to prove in this round, and a good round, a podium, for example, in race 2 here, be just as good as if they hadn't finished in race 1, because it only counts their best result. You see a couple more practice laps coming through, 2 minutes away from qualifying.
Yeah, important to get yourself set here. Of course, the weather, the exact same as it was for race number 1. Of course, it's been set to afternoon, partly cloudy, 68 degrees Fahrenheit. And that won't be changing, so no dynamic weather, but dynamic sky is in effect. So those clouds will obscure the sun in some instances and maybe drop the track temperature by a degree or 2 if that is a prolonged thing that happens. But in these sorts of cars, not really going to affect things all that much. So it's good for drivers to maybe just have this sort of constant weather, so that they're not having to deal with such drastic changes going from session to session.
Yeah, I mean, it'd make sense that there's some similarity between the weather race 1 to race 2 as well. And it was kind of hot track temperatures in race 1. Not blisteringly hot, but maybe that contributed to a few of the little spins we saw. If it's a tiny bit cooler this race, maybe we'll see some closer racing. Maybe the drivers will have more confidence. Who knows about that one?
Absolutely, of course, and you know, we're about just a minute away from getting the second qualifying session started. Granheim is actually able to hold on to his top spot in practice at the moment, but I'm not seeing a lap time set just yet by Roostgen, as he is just a tad late getting out there. We see Ronald heading his way across the line. We see Larry Thomas yet to set a lap time as well. But this is just to get comfortable with the car again. Maybe you've had a little bit of a break in between the 2 races. You're going to get a bit of a snack or a bit of a drink, and now you have to get yourself set for the second qualifying session and the second race. But if history is anything to go by, then we'll expect Roostgen to be up there and fighting for those front couple of spots, even though he didn't get pole position last time around, which is an interesting thing to note. You know, if his qualifying performance isn't quite as good as his race performance seems to be, then that may be a weakness that some drivers can exploit. Maybe if he even starts a little bit further back than P2 in this instance, his life might be more difficult.
Yeah, and you got to think about, you know, the guys who finished on the podium, you know, Paul Stump and John Morgan. Not a lot to lose in race 2 here, you know. Either you improve your result from race 1 or you don't. So, you know, it gives Paul Stump a little bit more room, for example, to go all out if he's fighting for the lead. And I guess maybe he could go back to back with pole positions as well. That'd be one to check out as we start qualifying.
Yeah, there are your practice results up on screen. Granheim topping the session, Shoemaker in second place with Garris in third. As the rest of those names including Morgan, you got Kern, you've got Poole. A little bit further back inside the top 10, you have the likes of
for 6th and 7th, you've got the pool party.
Pool, but spell it in two different ways. So the extra E and without. There we go. You like to see it. As we've got many Johns in this in these sessions as well. So if the John's gonna get the John train going, maybe we'll have a John party.
Yeah, indeed. Certainly the names that were popular at the time. Of course, there's sort of a sub-championship within this. It's 60-plus racing adventures, and it is for drivers 60 years of age or over. There's also a Super 70s championship, which again ought to be relatively self-explanatory in concept. But I haven't exactly had a look at that one because I guess it's another one of those just sort of little for fun things that the league administrators keep a check of. But there's definitely some very, very seasoned competitors in this championship, and that's awesome to see that a lot of people might occasionally in popular culture it might be cool to disparage esports and other such things as foolish youth. There's some drivers here of great vintage who very much enjoy a bit of sim racing, and it's great to see.
Put it this way, there are all the drivers here in this race their age is bigger than both of ours combined. So that is not meant as a slight at all. These drivers can probably beat me every single day of the week out there on circuit, which is just a testament to their skill level. And it's good that there's a place for them to compete amongst each other, without us young'uns just spoiling the party, so to speak.
Yes, no shortage of enthusiasm to go with the experience, though. So that is great to see. Riding on board here with Bruce Granheim, he's on his he's on his first flying lap, is he? He would be on his first flying lap, yes. So there's no times yet posted, but shortly we're going to get our first indication of where the field might lie for race 2.
Yeah, soon those first flurry of qualifying laps are going to come in, and Roshan's going to be one of the first ones. We're riding on board with Granheim as well, as he's going towards the end of his lap. First lap time going to be set by Roshan. Pretty quick one in the 134s, but not as quick as he was able to in the first qualifying session. You see Granheim coming through that final chicane now, and he was the top in practice. Can he go provisionally to the top of qualifying number 2? That's the question. A 134.679 is going to mean that he is going to go up into P number 4 for the moment, but quickly gets punted down because Donald Poole makes an impact towards the top of the timing screens as well. So with those first couple of laps in, David, it looks like we've seen a little bit of a shake-up in terms of who starts where, because Roshan starts P4. I'm not seeing a lap time come in from Stump just yet, I believe. So we'll just have to wait and see. I don't think he's even inside the session at the moment, but we'll just have to look past that and say that Randy Shoemaker, good first qualifying lap. He currently leads provisionally, but the second lap could be where it gets done.
Yeah, indeed. Always different ways to approach a qualifying session when you've got just 2 laps. So a lot of drivers have had a good first lap. Can they keep it up for a good second lap? And who has saved something on the table has a little bit left to further improve. Look at Bruce Poole, who has no lap time yet, but has plenty of time still to set one, with still more than half of the qualifying session remaining. Don't think we're going to see the track temperature change much during the session, but if it did, there might be an advantage to waiting and setting your time deeper in the session.
Yeah, Bruce Poole coming towards the end of one of his laps as well. It's going to be his, first lap of the qualifying session, looking to get his way across the line. We just had Stefan Roshan go to the top of the timing screens though, so that first lap was a little bit of a blip for him as he returns to form. Bruce Poole across the line, 135.874 for him, and that will be P number 12 for him at the moment. Punts down to P13, just as I mentioned it. Trying to look for a couple of other drivers. Bob Kern, he's just coming across the line to start his first flying lap here, so he has a couple in hand to try and get this one done. Another driver that hasn't set a lap time just yet, Kenneth Dummer, and he is on his second of his flying laps here, so he's basically putting all of his eggs in one basket. But Kern, though, the driver that we're on board with, still has a couple in hand.
Yeah, indeed. No times yet set for Bob Kern, so we'll see what he can do. It's not looking bad from on board. That's a pretty nice camera angle as well that we've got over the left shoulder. He's hitting the apex as well, so this could still be a good lap from Bob Kern. It's all looking pretty sharp and pretty focused.
Pretty sharp, pretty focused, and plenty of time to work with as well. Although if he does mess up one of these laps, then it might be a little bit sketchy in terms of him getting back out and able to complete another. But as we'll see him head his way into the heaviest braking zone of the lap, into the hairpin, get that cast load way down, then open up the steering, open up the throttle once again, as you're on the throttle for quite some time. Coming down the back straight here at Montreal. Just take some time to take in the sights and get yourself prepared for the braking zone into the tight final chicane. Hit the anchors into here. You can clip those curves on the inside just a little bit in these cars, but like you said in race 1, you don't want to clip them too much, otherwise you'll have an unfortunate spin. Bob Kern, though, heading his way to the start-finish line. A 134.981 will be good enough for P12, but he can stay out there and do another lap.
Yeah, I mean, not a bad start there. Puts him solidly in the upper midfield, and he's still got one more lap to go. Hopefully, I guess he'll be aiming to get within maybe a second of pole position. That could be a goal as well for him there. So, yeah, decent first lap, and I'm sure able to go a little harder on the second lap.
Yep, and he continues on his way. He is one of the only drivers that has not set their second qualifying lap, and he's going to be all on his lonesome out there at the moment. P number 12 is where he starts right now. The time to beat, though, you see that 1:33.7 that Roastgen was able to punch in. It'll be a miracle lap if Bob is able to beat that, but to solidify himself as a top 10 starter, that would be the overall goal for the driver of the number 6 at the moment. Typically, the second of these two laps have been faster, so you see exactly what's the case here for Kern. Once again, down the back straight, plenty of time to get this one done. Don't have to worry about that one at all. Seems like everyone has set themselves qualifying laps, as we have 28 cars in the field for race number 2, but just the final couple of corners now for Bob Kern to negotiate clean through there, not taking as much curb as last time, and now he opens up the throttle for the run to the start finish line. Is it going to be an improvement for Kern? It is a slight improvement, as by a couple of tenths of a second. It means he starts P11 rather than P12, so just that one position gained, but it's one position further towards the front, so you can't complain.
Yeah, and it does bring his time a lot closer to this real pack of drivers around, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. We're all really, really close there. So even though it only moves him one position, it moves him a lot closer to the pack. Some of the drivers he's going to be racing with in the race, his time is pretty competitive with them. It's not the route you want to take in the race there, but they've gone and practiced it.
Yep, and we are just around about 30 seconds away from the end of the session. We see Russ Addy heading his way through to complete a lap here. Not going to be one that counts, though, for the driver of the 111. He will remain in P6 in the qualifying standings at the moment. But 10 seconds left remaining before we can go over the starting grid for race number 2 of the evening here at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in the 60 Plus Racing Adventures. And Well, it is a change as far as pole position is concerned, because it's Roastgen this time around taking that accolade. Randy Shoemaker, good time from him, means he starts in P2. John Morgan starts P3 with Donald Poole in P4. Jack Turner starts in 5th place with Russ Addy in 6th place. John Unsby starts 7th with Urs Muller in P8. We see Leroy Coppage P9 and Bruce Granheim rounding out the top 10. Bob Kern, we saw his 2 qualifying laps, good enough for P number 11 in the qualifying session. We have Greg Garris in P12. Bruce Poole starts P13 with Louis Cannell in 14th place. David Riley starts 15th here for race 2 with Kenneth Dummer in 16th place and Ronald McManus in P17. 18th grid spot will be taken by Joel Martin with Greg Gilman in P19. Charles Gilly, P20 start for him. Wally Molesby in P21. Jared Florissen in 22nd. Douglas Bilsey in P23. We see Richard Valley in 24th and Gene Moore in 25th. John Van Barsen, Scotty Gallo, and Larry Thomas will round out the 28-car starting field for race number 2. So those cars getting themselves all stacked up behind that iRacing safety car to go racing once again. It was a very, very clean start in race 1 through the opening couple of laps. Whether or not that will be the case again here for race 2, that is still a big unknown. But like you said, David, some drivers may be feeling that here in race 2, there's a lot less to lose, especially if they've gotten a good result in race 1.
Yeah, and what a qualifying from Randy Shoemake to start on the front of the grid here on the front row. So I think it's something to prove there. It's a good start from him. And there's a couple of other names that might be looking for some redemption here in race 2. You know, Russ Addy might have been a little bit sloppy in race 1. Now he starts on the 3rd row here. It's a pretty solid qualifying time, so he might be looking for an improvement in his race.
Yeah, he will, as they'll start and get rolling. Roastgen going to be leading the field to the green flag in just a couple of moments' time, but Randy Shoemake on that 2nd spot. He won't get the jump over the race leader because the race leader dictates the start, but if you can make it close into turn 1, then there could be some fireworks at the very front of the field. So safety car down onto pit lane, field under the control of Roastgen, as he will take the field to the start of race 2 at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. We are underway with the green flag flying. Roastgen gets a decent jump over the rest of the field, heading down in towards turn number 1. Immediately single file for the vast majority of your top 10 coming through here. There's a battle though between Riley and Poole for P11 and 12 coming through the first sector, but they'll be able to sort their differences by the time the next chicane arrives of turn 3 and turn 4. David Riley picking that one up in that instant. But again, exactly like race number 1, in race number 2, we have a very, very, very clean start.
Yeah, fantastic. It'll all kick off a little bit deeper in the race, though, I am sure. Looking here, Donald Poole is being very, very close to John Morgan on this first lap. John Morgan maybe gets a slightly better run through there, but Poole is not losing touch at all. Roastgen also not getting away from Randy Shoemake at the moment, so kind of 5 cars for the front pack here on the lead lap as they come through the hairpin for the first time. Real hands will work there. Fast hands from Donald Poole.
We see Kenneth Dummer on the pit lane already, the 07. He must have taken the tow as a result of an incident, and it was coming through turn 8 and 9. You can see him parked on the grass. And is this influenced by anyone else, or is it a single car incident? Looks like it's just him, as he completely missed the second apex of the chicane, got on the grass, couldn't get that car turned, and heavy impact with the concrete wall on the outside. So he will be the first retirement of race number 2 here. We have a little bit of battling into the first sector. That's John Morgan and Donald Poole. The battle for P3 raging on. Donald Poole comes out on top. He hauls himself onto that 3rd step of the podium. He started in P4, has already gained this position early on, but he looks to try and lock on to your 2 cars right at the front of the field right now, because the last thing that Randy Shoemake, Poole, John Morgan need to do at this point is to allow Roshan to get away, as he tends to do.
Yep, certainly. So decent little battle there. Poole still in touch with the leaders now, having made that move, and another little battle pack behind them with Unsby, Muller, Coppage, Granheim here, and these guys are kind of stuck together as well, at least for the opening part of this race. So they're racing well, but a lot to think about if you're a driver in the middle of a pack like this, especially as it all compresses like an accordion into the hairpin. One of the slowest corners on the track. Moves to be made there, though.
Yeah, Louis Cannell going down the inside, or at least attempting to over Gannis, but Garris will be able to hold things steady and actually gains half a car length coming down the back straight, but Louis Cannell will gain that one back coming into the final chicane side by side. Cannell's gone deep on the brakes, but he's able to make the corner, the driver from the UK and Ireland, so he'll be able to secure himself in P11, and Garris has to be careful here because Poole is now looking to head his way down the inside. You can see the show of the nose into turn 1, but no commitment to the move. There's a slow car, though, coming through turn 2. That's Kenneth Dummer. He was just coming off the pit lane, I believe.
Yeah, and then so it looks like sensibly waiting for the whole pack. So no dive from Poole, and he'll stay there in 13th watching the pack.
He will. Lap number 3 of 18. It's been quite a calm, cool, and collected opening 2 laps, but there are still battles to be concerned about. You can see Bruce Poole in 13th place. He's trying to get involved with Garris here as far as a fight goes, but hasn't really been able to bring it side by side just yet. A little slow coming through turn 8 and 9, or rather Garris was so much faster coming through that section. He's able to extend the gap and go chasing after Cannell here. So despite Cannell's best efforts, he hasn't quite been able to pull away, and that draft is certainly keeping these guys together at the moment, especially coming through this section of the circuit where you just are on the throttle for so much time, and you're able to allow that slipstream to just build and build and build before maybe making a move into the final chicane. But here, they'll all just stay single file and take themselves through in an orderly fashion.
Yeah, looked like a questionable entry to the hairpin for Cannell, but he managed to make it work down the back straight there, not coming under too much threat of being passed. And he's got wheel rims there that definitely match the throwback livery as well, so easy to spot him out on track there in that British racing green.
Yeah, and he's got the green on the wheels as well, which I certainly appreciate, because a lot of people actually forget to paint the wheels, and I really like painted wheels. So Louis Cannell just representing the Painted Wheels Club as he'll lead his way through. Hasn't quite matched the green with the livery though. It needs to be a little bit darker.
No, it's also impolite to ask, does the wheels match
crash in the back.
livery?
Number 7,
around.
number 7, number 69, and the 818 involved in this one, as it's a bit of a gaggle that's gotten themselves involved here. Big crash, as it was Valley down the inside of Florisan, and they just get into a bit of a tangle, and the rejoin is not great from that driver there of Florisan, and there was absolutely nothing that Van Basten could have done, as he just goes headfirst into the side of that red and black Pro Mazda. So it's unfortunate for Van Basten, but you can't really do much when someone's coming across the circuit like that.
Yeah, indeed. Richard Varley might have caused a little bit of that with the dive in the Haas livery, and I've watched enough Drive to Survive in the last week to know exactly what Gunther Steiner might have to say about a move like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And well,
none of it broadcastable on this platform.
I was gonna say, is like, how could I phrase it in a way that is safely broadcast? And I came to the conclusion, none of it. So we'll just have to move on. And Coppage, we're riding on board with him at the moment as he looks to track down John Unsby. And it's 4/3 of a second between those guys at the moment. There's a big error that is well recovered from Gotsby, and Unsy also had a similar issue coming down into there as well. So both drivers almost having simultaneous incidents that completely weren't affected by each other.
Yeah, I was watching Unsby make a bit of a dog's breakfast of that chicane from the onboard there, and I thought, oh, here's an opportunity for Coppage, but there's all the possibility that as he was coming through the corner, he's seen the wiggle from the car in front, and that's distracted him into a similar move. Well caught, very well caught, it must be said, to not end up in the wall there, but both of those guys pushing kind of hard and looked like struggling for traction at the back of the car.
Yeah, that tail end just getting a bit too happy in through turn number 8 and 9 in that particular instance. And we actually have an instant further back as well, because we just had the 14, I believe, have a bit of a problem. That's David Riley, as he is slow coming through the final chicane. And we'll have to see what has happened. He was briefly side by side with McManus into the corner, but then the car just broke away from him a little bit of a nose, not into the wall of champions, but close enough that we can say it counts. But Riley getting back going now. He's all the way down in P number 20 at the moment. So race number 2 hasn't really gone Riley's way at the moment, as we see a couple of drivers sort of start to drop to the back of the field as a result of a couple of these spins at the moment. Alpha P17, Beasley and Turner going on right now, and Turner having a little bit of a look around driver's left-hand side coming into turn number 8, and he's able to pick up that position over Beasley. So with a lot of these battles that we've been seeing, David, it seems like the driver that's being overtaken seemingly has no problems with lifting up throttle and just letting it happen.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it's confidence too. I mean, you can go around the outside if you've got more confidence on the brakes. If you go down the inside and you've got more confidence there, you're going to get the move done. So no one wants to cause an incident here. And, you know, if someone's, you know, catching you, clearly got a bunch more confidence on the brakes, and I think the move is probably going to happen, especially everyone's aware how one line a lot of these chicanes are. Fighting side by side really doesn't gain anyone anything, particularly you look at the last chicane as an example there, where you'd lose 2 seconds or end up in the fence if you ever tried to go too wide with someone past the first apex.
Indeed, and looking back to the very front, because Roosjan, we're looking at the belt for P3 and 4 at the moment, and it's quite a train as well. So a lot of the drivers involved in this at the moment. And but Roosjan, he's still only about 0.4 of a second ahead of these guys. So it's he hasn't been able to run away in the first half of the race here. Yes, he did start to really pull out the gap in the second half of the last race, but these drivers still keeping him honest at the moment, and Roosjan has to be hoping that maybe Shoemake and Poole have a little bit of a scrap, because maybe they're getting a little bit too close for comfort for now. He's still got a decent gap. You can just see the separation between P1 and the rest of the drivers behind on that particular shot on the way into the chicane. But still, there's still a chance for Shoemake, Poole, and Morgan perhaps to be able to get themselves onto the top step.
Yeah, Shoemake had been doing a really good job so far in this race to stick with Roastgen, and you know, it was 4/5 most of this race so far. Now it's just come out to 9/10, maybe a second. So Shoemake can't afford to lose any time in sticking with Roastgen. There's a big pack coming along with him as well.
Yeah, big old pack. And, you know, that could end up being exciting coming through the second half of this race, but we're just about going to hit the halfway point in a lap or so's time here. So plenty of time to get things done, although I just saw Shoemake make a bit of an error coming out of turn 7 that gave a slight run to Poole into turn 8, but not enough that Poole was able to do anything with it, though. As, you know, if Poole's going to negotiate this pass, he's going to have to do it very, very quickly. Otherwise, Roastgen's just going to get out of slipstream distance.
Yeah, indeed. That's the sort of game of chess when you're in sort of second, third place here is, you know, how hard do you fight for one position knowing you might lose potentially a little more. This is going to be a good run from Poole. Shoemake holds his line right in behind Roastgen.
Yep, holds his line and all line astern. Single file coming through the final chicane. Roastgen coming across the line now. He did have an 0.8 of a second gap last time at that same point, and now he only has a 0.7 of a second gap at that same point. There is a bit of lap traffic just ahead of these guys, though. That's the number 18 of John Van Barsen, who was involved in an incident that completely wasn't his fault, running into a car, rejoining a racing circuit in an unsafe manner. But you know, still, as a result, he is towards the back and about to be lapped by this leading group that is now getting to be around about 5 cars strong, because I'm not going to count Russ Addy out of this either, because he's feeling the tail end of the draft in that yellow and black car right at the tail end of that particular shot. And he could potentially be making some moves here in the not-too-distant future if he can just lock on just that little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, John Morgan, Russ Addy, you have to say, probably doing a decent job here, where they're within a stone's throw of the lead of the race, and they're not really taking any risks. They're just going along with the pack, being patient and biding their time.
Lap traffic going to be dealt with, though, as Roastgen heads his way down the inside. No lift out from the lapped car, though, so they might be splitting up P1 and P2 here into the final chicane, and they do. Is Shoemake impeded by that, though? Not entirely sure. He'll get the drive off the corner, though, and that lapped car will go all the way to the pit wall to be able to let these guys by. We have an instant towards the mid-pack, though. That was the 21 that I just saw flash up on my screen. Yeah, and that's Douglas Beasley. That's just had a problem, and it's going to be into this corner. Just goes very wide. Understeer becomes oversteer on the exit, and spun back around, and he just takes the toe back to pit lane. Oh, 979, Donald Poole. He's had a problem into turn 3. And is this a similar situation? It's not the same not the same portion of the track, but it might be a similar incident. We'll just have to see. And he just doesn't turn for the corner, doesn't get the car stopped, and takes it to the escape road. And he has to try and back it all the way back out, and has to wait an age to try and find a gap to rejoin in as well. That's unfortunate for Paul, because he was fast here in this race too.
Yeah, he might have got in just a little bit deep, locked a tyre potentially, and decided to do that rather than turn into the corner. So that's cost him a lot of time. But that car is a lot prettier than some of the ones we saw in race 1. So sure, it's dropped him down to 12th, but he was clearly one of the faster drivers we've got.
Yeah, so he gets cycled back, and that is in P12 as well. So he's lost basically 10 positions there as a result of that particular incident. Granheim, though, looking to try and get past Unsby here, but not going to gain enough ground into the chicane to be able to do so. So remains in line for now, as there's a lot of respect given between these drivers. You know, with the side-by-side battles that we have seen, there's been acres of room given, and maybe even a couple of backouts here and there, just to make sure both cars can get through safely. And that's something you got to respect about this series.
Yeah, well, there's a saying among pilots that there are old pilots and bold pilots, but no old, bold pilots. And I'm sure the same thing probably applies to racing drivers. I mean, I'm not sure you get to 60 plus if you don't have a level head and know what is and isn't your fight. Is there a case to be made there potentially?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of experience, right? So, you know, they've been in these sorts of situations many times before, and they know how it usually goes if drivers are being a bit over aggressive. But Randy Shoemake down the inside for the race lead. That's happened all of a sudden. Roshan, what's happened to him? Because he had a 1 second gap coming across the line last time around, and that's just been all gobbled up now with Randy Shoemake being able to take the race lead. Is Roshan going to come back at him coming through the chicane? No, he lifts out after he gets the run into the chicane. But I just kind of want to wind things back to see exactly how this happened and how Roshan lost all of that time. And it's with a lapped car. Just before we started that replay, Scotty Gallo getting in the way somewhat coming out of turn 8 and 9. And Roshan, he's just lost all that time he worked so hard to build.
And this is going to be interesting to see how hard Roshan fights to get back in the lead, because it'll be some of the hardest we've seen him fight all this round. Because last race he got to the lead pretty easily, and then tried to walk away with it. Didn't initially, but eventually got that lead. Now he's got Shoemake in front, who looks like he's going to fight for all his worth for this win.
Well, it's the first time he'll get to do it throughout the 2 races that we've had this evening. Trying to get at least at least half the car inside the slipstream on the way in towards turn number 8. Not able to make any progress round there, but Roshan, he has to now prove why he's the winner of this championship out there on circuit instead of running away at the front of the field. He has to do it in a duel with Randy Shoemake, who has just come alive in race number 2. Didn't really have a very notable race 1, but the second race is all that counts right now for Shoemake, as he is in the best points paying position. But Roshan so desperately wants this to be a clean sweep in the final round of the season. Towards the inside he'll go into the heavy braking zone of the final chicane. He is deeper on the brakes and he is able to gain the position. So Roshan back up into that leading spot, and Shoemake having to pass from behind once again. John Morgan also in tow in P3. Russ Addy as well. He's been the dark horse, just following these guys at the moment, and he might potentially be on for a top 3 finish as well.
Yeah, I don't know if they're just waiting and looking for their time, or they've just discovered this is the best place to view the lead battle from. Morgan and Addy have just been flying in formation behind this scrap for basically all of the race so far, it seems, at least the last 5 or so laps. They're in a good position and they're not doing anything reckless with it, so that's good to see.
Yep, it is. Roshan, he's doing a good job at extending the gap once again, up to 2.5 tenths. Coming on the way down into turn number 8. John Morgan, though, he might be thinking that he wants to wrestle away the P number 2 spot at the moment, and has a very good chance, because look at that run out of turn number 9. Just got that power down so quickly, but he's not able to sense a move down the inside at the hairpin just yet. Goes deep on the brakes, takes a bit of a wider arc through the hairpin, looking for that exit speed to carry down the straight. Roshan isn't quite clear at the front of this train right now, so there's certainly a possibility that Shoemake can get this draft pass done into the final chicane. Roshan all the way to the inside. Shoemake not following him inside his slipstream, though, just deciding to take the clear air on the outside. Personally, not what I would have done. You want to gain every single advantage possible, but Shoemake may be looking to make it happen into turn 1 this time. I feel like he's a little bit too far back without a bit of a dive.
Yeah, indeed. He's still there, though, not letting Roshan get away. Deep, whoa, through the first bit of the apex, and then John Morgan comes back, looking at second place. So Shoemake's now finding himself in a more difficult position, with the cars behind are fighting a little bit harder than before. It's again, he's missing some of the first apexes of a couple of these corners. He's been doing really well on the brakes. Just not sure if that's helping him turn into the apex of some of these corners. A lot of them are sort of 2 apex chicanes and stuff here, where they're a real complex.
Yeah, and if you miss the first one, it's going to mess up your run into the second, and you're just going to lose more time as a result. And you can see that's where Roshan has been gaining a lot of his time, as he extends the gap again, this time 7.5 tenths of a second between P1 and P2. It was only 2.5 tenths of a second coming across the line to start this lap. And John Morgan, he's been patient in 3rd place right now. Yes, he has had a look here and there, but, the closer that we get to the end here, that's more of a chance that John Morgan's going to make a big impact here don't count out Russ Addy at the back of the shot as well. Could potentially come into things, but Roaston just trying to pull the gap right now and is doing so quite admirably. So not exactly phased with the problems of a couple of laps ago where he dropped the position. Now he's back where he's comfortable and he's able to get those lap times in. And now this might just be a battle for P2 between 3 cars.
Yeah, interesting position to be in if you're John Morgan or Russ Addy. You know that the moment you try and fight Randy Shoemake for that second place, you hurt all of your ability to go for first place. You know, it's right on the bubble of being a second and that draft. And the moment you try and fight him for that position, you might lose out on any chance of being able to take the win. So they're patient in a way, hoping Shoemake sticks with Roaston, but at the moment it's not quite happening.
Yeah, personally, if I was one of these drivers, either Morgan or Addy, I would just be thinking, okay, race lead's gone at this point. The gap is 1 second between P1 and P2, so and that gap has been extended by a couple of tenths of a second a lap. So it's obviously not going to happen in terms of the race win without any sort of outside influence. Now P2 is the next best thing that you can go for. So I think that's what Morgan and Addy have to focus on at this point, is what Shoemake also has to focus on as well. He has to realize that P1, at least on raw pace, has gotten away from him. Now he has to look in those wing mirrors and try and make sure he holds on to that second step of the podium.
Yep, and then Addy here in 4th place, watching the 2 in front fight, thinking, when's my time? Because, you know, we're going to start lap 16 this lap. They're running out of time to be patient.
Shoemake with a slow run coming out of the final chicane. It allows the opportunity that John Morgan needs down the inside at turn 1. Room given by both drivers through this tight and twisty section. Shoemake trying to get the drive off the corner on the inside, but not as good as John Morgan in that respect. Morgan gets up into P2, and now Russ Addy is the next car that looks to try and get past Shoemake here. Can Shoemake hold on to a podium spot, or is that going to fall from his grasp as well? Well, it doesn't at the moment, but Addy, he's been waiting in the wings for so long, and now he looks to try and take the spotlight.
Yep, another good exit from him, right in the wheel tracks of the car in front, following Randy Shoemake, who defends a little bit in a couple of places. Addy's not close enough here, but when will he potentially be able to get through? Yeah,
he has still a good couple of opportunities before this race is done to be able to get past. There was a slight lockup from your race leader into the hairpin, though. Won't concern him just yet. Doesn't lose a lot of time as a result. But, you know, for Roaston at the very front, he just needs to keep it clean until the end from this point forwards. Russ Addy just sitting inside the slipstream coming down the back straight, although Shoemake is getting a bit of slipstream from the car ahead, so that'll cancel things out somewhat. No bad run this time from Shoemake out of the final chicane. He aced it this time around, and, you know, getting that wrong last time was what allowed John Morgan through.
Yeah, and of course, that would be just such a difficult corner there. You know, you've got the 2 apexes, the very, very violent curbs, and the World Champions right on the outside there. So you don't want to push it too hard through there, but you've got to absolutely nail the line if you're going to get the power open early and if you're going to carry the momentum through the middle of the corner. So you can't blame someone for not getting that right 100% of the time. It is quite a challenging little section.
It is, but those laps start to tick down now. Just 1.5 laps before we can call this race finished. Addy getting very close to that concrete wall on the outside coming out of the 7. He's able to get away with it on the brakes into 8 and 9 now. And still unable to gain that much ground as Shoemake now tries to make sure he has a comfortable buffer coming onto the final lap of the race. He might have just done enough as long as he doesn't make any more mistakes from this point forwards. Deep on the brakes goes Addy into the hairpin, though. He gains a bunch of time as a result of being able to do that. And now he just sits 0.5 of a second behind the car of Randy Shoemake. It's still a surmountable gap, but not one that's easily done for Addy, as these top 4 now just start to spread out with very similar gaps between the drivers into the final chicane for the penultimate time. They'll come across the line with 1 lap to go, with this battle still undecided, but Shoemake looking to have recovered from a shaky couple of laps.
Yeah, certainly he's under a bit less pressure than he was when he first lost that spot to Morgan, then went backwards another. So, you know, sitting there in third, 1 position behind where he started, maybe not where you exactly want, but still looking for a podium, and turning in a bit late there for 3 and 4.
Yeah, and there's lap traffic ahead that might affect this. It might affect the race leader as well, so Morgan has to be hoping that the lap traffic gets in the way, but no, it pulls to the inside and just lifts out the throttle to let all of these guys by, so it won't factor into things at the end of the day. John Morgan's done a very good job at closing this gap for the race lead right now, though. In fact, that battle for the race lead is almost as close as this battle for P3 and 4. So we can pay a little bit of attention to it. There's a bit of a train of lap traffic ahead, but whether or not that'll be a factor with these guys still remains to be seen. I think they'll just miss them given the right set of circumstances. But here on the final lap, for the final time, coming down on the back straight, John Morgan in P2. He doesn't quite have the legs to be able to get this one done inside the slipstream. It just has to require a mistake for Roastgen coming through the final chicane, but he's pitch perfect as ever. And now Roastgen will be able to clean sweep the evening, comes across the line to take yet another race win in the 60-plus racing adventures. John Morgan in second place, Randy Shoemake in a third place finish, able to hold on over Russ Addy in fourth. A fantastic run by the driver of the number 3 there to try and hold on to a podium position. Everyone else, though, further back through the field, quite spread out at this stage, so no battles coming towards the start-finish line here. But that one had that race had a little bit more intrigue at the front of the field than race 1 did here, David, with Roastgen not quite being able to extend the gap like he did in the first race, and it ends up being just just half a second gap between P1 and P2 right at the very end.
Yeah, he had no room for a mistake on the final lap. He could have gotten away with losing a bit of time in the end of race 1, but not the case here in race 2, where he was pushed and pursued all the way to the checkered flag.
Yep, he was pushed, he was behind at one point as well, but he's able to recover things and finish first once again. Stephen Roastgen taking the race win, and here are your official race results. At the end of the day, for the 60-plus racing adventures, John Morgan in P2, Randy Shoemake with a brilliant P3 finish as he had a bit of a roller coaster race. Russ Addy always on the outside looking in, and unfortunately for him, finishes outside of the podium positions in P4. Leroy Coppage in P5, John Unsby in P6, Rob Kern P7, Bruce Poole, Bruce Granheim, and Greg Garris will bring things down to P10 in the finishing results. Louis Cannell, Greg Gilman, Jack Turner, and Ronald McManus will take things down to P14, with Wally Molesby, David Riley, Urs Muller, Joel Martin, Gerard Florissen, and Charles Gilly will round out the top 20. For those cars 1 lap down or more, Scotty Gello, we have Kenneth Dummer, Richard Varley, John Van Barsen, Gene Moore, Donald Poole, Douglas Beasley, and Larry Thomas, finishing your 28 car field here. And with that, it's going to be at the end of the racing, but we can just talk for a little bit about how this particularly, these 2 races have gone, and of course the entire season as well. It seems like Roastgen was the man to beat coming through the entire season, and it was very rare that someone was able to beat him, let's just say that. But, you know, another race win to his name, and just makes this championship seem, all that more comfortable. And, it was already very comfortable having won the thing coming into this race, but you know exactly what you mean, just proving that there was never any doubt about who was taking the championship.
Well, yeah, exactly. He just consistently shows up, and when he shows up, he's consistent. We didn't see particularly many mistakes from Stefan Roach. We rarely do. Sure, other guys, Randy Shoemake, Russ Addy, John Morgan here, and Paul Stump, for example, had some pace for him, but none of them had consistency for him. And I think you piece together a 12-week, 24-race championship, and that comes to mean a lot. It matters a lot that you deliver every time you show up.
Yeah, and that's the important thing, when we talk about the being able to put up those sorts of performances throughout a season as well, and that's what Roshan has done. He's, like you said, he's consistent and consistently fast, which is basically a winning pairing as far as racing goes. John Morgan, though, P number 2 in this race, had a very, very decent run of things to be able to get himself into that position. But one driver I do want to talk about, though, Randy Shoemake, I wasn't really expecting him to be able to do much coming into the second race, but he got that good qualifying under his belt, and the race pace didn't seem bad. It was a bit of a sketchy middle portion of the race for him, where he did lose that position to John Morgan, but for the end of the race, he came back strong, and that is a good quality in a driver, where you're able to just recover from things going wrong and make sure that you don't crack under the pressure.
Yeah, and race 1 wasn't good for him particularly either. He was maybe buried deeper in the pack than he deserved to be, might have rushed a little too hard to try and make movement forward. We saw him involved in a little, accident in the hairpin in race 1 as well. Then, he turned it around for race 2, good qualifying, raced really well. He was leading a couple laps there, and, he still ended up finishing 3rd, which is not bad.
Yeah, not a bad finish to the season. Of course, we didn't quite get to talk about the battle for P2 and 3 in the standings because those two drivers unfortunately did not take part in this race. So that was a bit awkward coming to the end of this season. But still, regardless, Stefan Roshan basically taking the entire season. Well, if I'm reading this correctly, 15 wins it will end up being. 15 wins that it'll end up being towards the end here. So it's that is absolutely incredible stuff. John Morgan, though, with a good points haul, especially here in race 2, might be able to haul himself close up into P3. But we'll just have to get confirmation about everything here once a couple of minutes have passed and the session results can actually get loaded into the league system.
Yeah, indeed. John Morgan, another one of those drivers, is very, very consistent here in 60-plus racing adventures. There's a lot of names that have done a lot of these races, and you see who rises to the top more often than not. So good work there from John Morgan. Who else could we have maybe seen a little more out of this round? I'm not sure. Jared Florison has sometimes been a bit more competitive than I think we've seen this round, but I'm sure he'll be back because the next season schedule has been confirmed, and the 60-plus drivers are a very tight community and always very eager to continue racing.
Always very eager to continue racing, and we're always eager to commentate as well, as that is the end of the season for the 60-plus racing adventures here on RaceSpotTV. It's been an absolute pleasure to broadcast the races that we have been able to do so across this season. I've been Connery Maddock. I've been joined by David Haynes, Hugo Luis behind the scenes, making everything work on the broadcast side, Esteban Ballo for providing us the track TV cameras. But with the season wrapped up, we have to say goodbye, but don't worry, because the next season of the 60-plus racing adventures looks to be a similarly competitive one as well. We'll see you guys whenever that starts. I've been Connery, that's been David. We'll see you guys soon.